In this video, I'm going to predict the NFL playoffs in the wild card round. Now, I might do the divisional round and championship round, even a Super Bowl in another video, but for now, I'm just really going to focus on the wild card round. And I have some surprising teams. So obviously we have the Broncos and Seahawks, our division winner. So if the one seeds win out the way that they actually did in the 2022 season, we'll have a Super Bowl 48 rematch between the Broncos and Seahawks. So anyway, you know how it works. We have the bracket right here. We have 49ers, Eagles, Packers, Bears, Rams, Panthers, Bills, Jaguars, Chargers, Patriots, and Texans, Steelers. The first game is going to be the Rams versus Panthers. And I know this is going to sound like a really hot take, but I actually feel like the Panthers might win this one. They already won the first game of the season. They beat the Rams 31-28. And should the Panthers be in the playoffs? No. But do I think that the Panthers could go out there and beat the Rams? Yes. Yeah, I actually do. So the Panthers, they are on a two-game losing streak. They have lost, three of the last four since the bye, and they've kind of been meddling around 500, for a while because they haven't won back-to-back games since October when they beat the Cowboys and the Jets. But the Panthers are this weird team. They've lost to some of the worst teams in football. They got swept by the Saints. They got swept by the Saints. They lost the game to the Arizona Cardinals of all teams, but at the same time they've beaten contenders. Like they beat the Packers on the road. They beat the Rams. So they're like this just confusing team, and and as far as the Rams go. The Rams are on a bit of a slide themselves recently. They did beat the Cardinals, but the Cardinals are a really bad team. But they lost to the Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons. So they haven't been too hot themselves. I actually feel like could be a game where we've seen a decline of Matthew Stafford. I actually think that the Panthers can, at home, possibly win this game. And upsets are exciting, so I'm going to tend to lean on the side of an upset if I can. Bears-Packers is a very famous rivalry. The Packers already defeated the Bears in the 2010 NFC Championship game, but they split the series. But the Packers so far they're on a bit of an L streak. The Green Bay Packers, they have lost their last four games. They have not won a game since December 7th against the Bears, and then again they split the series. Just on account of that alone, I'm inclined to pick the Bears to win this game. Now, as an Eagles fan, you want the Panthers to win, and you especially want the Packers to win the next two games. Reason why is because if this happens, then you'll get to host throughout. If the Packers, you'll get to host throughout. But I kind of doubt it. Bills Jaguars. Now this is a genuine toss-up. The Jacksonville Jaguars are a surging team. But the Bills, with the Chiefs being eliminated, the most playoff experience in the NFL. But you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they're just this odd team because you see the Jaguars have just been winning out. They have not lost a game since November, and they've won 8 games in a row. To go to 13-4, propel themselves to an AFC South title. However, look at the teams they've played. They beat the Cardinals, and they barely beat the Cardinals. Same with the Raiders. They barely beat the Raiders. They squashed the Chargers, and they are a playoff team to their credit. And he did squash the Broncos, another playoff team. But the other teams they've played were the collapsing Indianapolis Colts, who lost 7 in a row to end the season. The awful Tennessee Titans. And they got to play the Jets as well. I'm not so sure that they can go out there and play a team at least the quality of the Bills. I know they did against the Broncos on the road, but even still, they might not be Bills level good. The Broncos could still be frauds. The Broncos and Seahawks, I don't really trust either team to win in the divisional round. And the Bills, they lost on the AFC East because of how good the Patriots have been on a ridiculously easy schedule. But to their credit, the Bills have not been that bad of a team this year. They barely lost to the Eagles, and we know that the Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champions who are back in the playoffs. I know they barely beat the Cleveland Browns, but they had a huge comeback against the Patriots as well, and they also beat the Steelers convincingly. In light of that, I'm not sure. I might go ahead and say the Bills just because they have the playoff experience the Jaguars don't necessarily have. I will say this is close to a worst case scenario for the Jaguars. Maybe the Texans could be worse, but like I don't know besides the Texans if any team that's worse than the Bills. You ideally if you're a Jaguars fan, if you couldn't get the bye, ideally you would have wanted to have faced the Chargers, the Steelers, the maybe even the Patriots. You did not want to face the Buffalo Bills. Now, Niners-Eagles is a rematch of the 2022 NFC Championship game. Despite the Eagles winning that, they lost their 2 regular season games against the 49ers with Nick Sirianni at the helm. Lost them in 2021 and in 2023 in the regular season. Now, this is the trajectory that Philadelphia has been going in is a little bit weird, in my opinion. Because Philly is a team where they won 4, lost 2, won 4, lost 3, won 3, and then lost the Commanders. Now, in fairness to them, they lost the Commanders. They didn't really have it. They rested their starters, but that itself will probably be seen as a stupid decision if they lose to the 49ers, whereas the Bears squashed the Packers in the sense that you could have gotten a much easier opponent, and you chose not to. Or if they lose on the divisional round to the Bears in a close game. Either one of those scenarios. And we'll think of it as a dumb idea. Seeing as the Bears actually lost to the Lions. So the Eagles could have had the 2 seed had they put their starters in and won. And the Eagles are this weird team because of the inconsistencies of Jalen Hurts and their lackluster offense. Even when they're winning games, the Eagles are not a team. They haven't dropped 40 on a team all season. And usually when they even in victory, they score a low amount of points, like scoring 13 against the Bills, 16 against the Lions, 10 against the Packers. And we haven't really seen an offense, do what it's supposed to be doing, even in victory. Which gives me a lot of pause. Well, they have beat the Bills. When they played the Bears and Chargers, they lost to both of those teams. The Bears was a 2-score loss at home as well. How they did beat the Packers. I was going to flex the Lions, but they missed the playoffs entirely. Same for the Buccaneers. They did beat the Rams. But a lot of the teams they've beat that we thought were going to be good turned out to indeed not be very good. And a lot of teams that were good, they lost to. Now, the 49ers. I feel like they are just this hot team because they were on a 6-game winning streak after starting off, with a little bit of mediocrity. They won their first 3, but then in this stretch, they played 7 games and they lost 4 of them. Though none back-to-back. And that's what worries me. They don't lose games back. They haven't lost a game back-to-back this year. However, you look at them, and in this win streak, they didn't play a lot of good teams. I mean, yeah, they played they did play the playoff caliber Panthers, although they did not deserve to be in the playoffs. But But some of their opponents, the Cardinals, the collapsing Colts, the Titans, the Browns, though they did then beat the 2 seed Bears at home. But then they lost to the Seahawks to blow the NFC West, scoring only 3 points. They have a very high caliber offense. They dropped 48 on the Colts, 42 on the Bears, 41 on the Cardinals. But at the same time, their defense hasn't always been, the most reliable. Seeing as they let even Phillip Rivers, a 44-year-old grandpa, score 27 on them and let the Bears drop 38. Yes, they didn't allow the Panthers or Browns to score a lot, but in the case of the Browns, they literally had Shedeur Sanders as their quarterback, who is not very good for a reason. It's tough for me to say. I do think that the Eagles team is better than the Niners team. The question is the coaching staff for the Eagles going to step up? I do think the Niners have a better coaching staff. But I think that the Eagles can narrowly pull out a win. I'm an Eagles fan, but I'm not one that's going to say, oh, we're going to the Super Bowl. But I think we should take care of the Niners. After that is Chargers-Patriots. The Los Angeles Chargers, to me, are just this odd team because start off doing good, again, hit a stretch of mediocrity, and then they won 4 games, but then they lost their last 2 against the Texans and Broncos. Granted, in the Broncos game, they rested. They have beaten some good teams. They beat the Philadelphia Eagles. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they beat the Broncos, but a lot of their games, they have not beaten some good opponents. They lost the Jaguars, Texans, we talked about. So I'm not sure. And Justin Herbert is a quarterback who is known for pooping his pants in the big moment. Meanwhile, the Patriots, they have been a very good team this year, en route to 14-3. However, they lost to the Steelers, and they split with the Bills being their biggest test, the best team that they faced. Look at a lot of these teams. A lot of these teams suck. I mean, they beat the Panthers, but the Panthers are still a losing record team. They got to play the AFC North and the NFC South. I'll put it that way. So they got to play the 2 weakest divisions, where between those 2 divisions, only one of those teams, the Pittsburgh Steelers, had a winning record, and that was the team they lost to in the division. Swept the Dolphins and the Jets. Neither of them are very good teams, though. And split with the Bills, as I mentioned, who was probably their biggest test yet. They, they got to play. They beat the Saints, they beat the Panthers, they beat the Bucks, they beat the Falcons, but none of them are very good teams. They lost the Steelers. I mean, yeah, they beat the Ravens, they beat the Browns, beat the Bengals, but again, none of them are very good teams. And they got to play a 4th place schedule too. They got to play the DEI Tennessee Titans, the DEI New York Giants, and they lost to the Raiders somehow. I'm just not sure that the Patriots can step it up when it matters most. I'm just genuinely not sure of that because they haven't really played anyone good. If this is college, I'm not even sure they get a playoff spot based on their ridiculously easy strength of schedule. It's ridiculously easy strength of schedule, and the Patriots and Panthers are the 2 reasons why I think the NFL should have a playoff committee, but I'll get into that later. Finally, Texans Steelers. The Texans are a blazing hot football team right now. They have won 9 games in a row after starting off 0-3 and later on 3-5. They are red hot. No one's going to stop them. That kind of team. But again, quality of opponents. They did beat the Jaguars to their credit, and this is a 19-point fourth quarter comeback. But they swept the collapsing Colts. They also got to beat the Arizona Cardinals, Las Vegas Raiders, and even that was a close game. Tennessee Titans. When they had to play the Seahawks and Broncos, both games resulted in L's. But they did beat the 49ers. They did beat the Bills. They did beat the Chargers. So they have played some good teams, and they are. And that defense is really good. Even though the coach somehow dropped 30 on them. A lot of the games have been low-scoring games. The offense, if it can be somewhat competent, they probably are Super Bowl favorites. Pittsburgh, meanwhile, has not won a playoff game since 2016, and Mike Tomlin just tends to collapse right before the playoffs. They were literally like the definition of mediocrity all year, except for maybe after they beat the Browns and were 4-1, and they've just been this mixed bag of are they good, are they not? It's been tough to say with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but